From the KELOLAND Digital Desk, I'm meteorologist Scott Mundt, and this is Weather or Not for Monday, December 22nd. First day of winter. That was yesterday. We'll talk more about this winter solstice coming up. Christmas week warmth. This is something that we've been advertising, I think, easily since last week, maybe even going a little bit beyond. We'll take a look at some of the modeling information, what it is suggesting that we may have for a high temperature in Sioux Falls come Christmas Day, as you know, those numbers have been going up and down. So I'll show you what I saw over the weekend. I'll show you what I saw this morning as far as temperatures go for Christmas Day. And, of course, we'll end with our extended forecast. Do we see anything coming for the rest of the month or the rest of the year? And do we see anything coming for the beginning of January or the beginning of the year? So that is something that I'll share with you coming up here in just a bit. But in the meantime, for today, we will warm. We'll continue to warm as we go through the morning hours and into the afternoon. Temperatures will be well above average. In fact, there is a chance that Rapid City may hit record territory today with temperatures warming to the middle 60s. Otherwise, eastern KELOLAND will be interesting to see because temperatures in eastern South Dakota, they can range from the middle to upper 30s in northeastern KELOLAND to maybe 60 degrees. The forecast high in Yankton is for a high of 59. So then sandwiched in between, we'll have numbers in the 40s and 50s. I think Sioux Falls has a chance of hitting 50 degrees for today. But as this front moves through, we'll take a step or two back with cooling temperatures for tomorrow. But I think the front will move through dry for tonight. We'll have partly cloudy skies. Behind it, light northerly winds. And then the thing about tomorrow, of course, being behind the front, you do expect colder temperatures. But this high-pressure system during the day will eventually move into northern Minnesota. So that would give us an easterly wind for eastern South Dakota, Minnesota, northwestern Iowa, probably starting from the northeast, eventually switching to the east. And then by the time it moves to our south for Wednesday, Christmas Eve, we'll have a southerly wind, and that will help us warm. But with an easterly wind toward the tail end of December, clouds being a little thicker, you expect temperatures to be cooler. Real hard to warm when you have an east to northeasterly wind, no matter what time of year it is. But that warm front that you do see stretched across western South Dakota, that moves to the east. And for Christmas Eve, we are looking at dry skies. We are looking at warming temperatures as we do get those numbers. They'll remain above average. Though I should mention, too, with that in mind, northeastern South Dakota, as we take this step back, we can see temperatures slightly below average. So we may have a couple of areas tomorrow in northeastern South Dakota that are stuck in the 20s. And then we'll warm Christmas Eve, try to warm again Christmas Day. And then as we hit the weekend, temperatures will cool. And we'll talk more about that as we get into the weather pattern coming up during the last segment of Weather or Not. For today, western South Dakota, we'll have to watch winds. They've already been strong in and around Custer with some of these wind gusts in the early morning hours, 30 miles per hour for a wind gust coming in from the west. And I think as we continue through the morning and into the afternoon, winds will pick up in western and southwestern South Dakota. You see by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Rapid City will have a wind gust near 30, possibly stronger for parts of the southern hills. So that's something worth noting. But light winds in central and eastern South Dakota. Now, as we do go through time here, we'll stop it again tomorrow afternoon, relatively light winds. But I do want to point out again, with this easterly wind in eastern South Dakota, Minnesota, and Iowa, the temperatures will be cooler. A slight change in that wind for Wednesday, a southerly direction, okay? But winds will remain light, and then it's Christmas Day that they start to pick up again. Western South Dakota, we could see another day with wind gusts 40 to 50 miles per hour in western KELOLAND on Christmas Day. And some of those strong winds continue right into Friday. Western, southwestern South Dakota, relatively light winds covering central and eastern KELOLAND during that time. But for the southern foothills, we are looking at a wind advisory for today. On top of that, we have an extreme fire danger. With these west winds gusting to 50 miles per hour, a warm day will have relative humidity that will be low, so we have this increase in fire danger across southwestern South Dakota and the southern foothills in particular. So from Hermosa down toward Hot Springs, we are looking at not only the wind advisory, but the extreme fire danger for today. So something worth noting. Our forecast for today showing the high temperatures will range from the 30s, north central and northeastern South Dakota. You see 37 in Watertown, 38 in Aberdeen, 37 in Mobridge. And then as you work your way to the south and to the west, temperatures do warm. Going with a high of 50 today in Sioux Falls, 51 in Mitchell. 60 is not that far behind. Winter at 68, Rosebud 69, 71 in Valentine. 64 in Phillip and 64 in Rapid City, which is 1 degree away from tying the record at 65. Tonight, the front moves through. Behind it, we'll have northerly winds as temperatures fall to the 20s to near 30 degrees. We'll go with numbers in the lower 20s in north central and northeastern South Dakota. So it's a weak front. It'll move through dry, change that wind direction to the north at 5 to 15. And then for central eastern, I think for all of KELOLAND tomorrow, we'll have relatively light winds. But coming up on the next weather segment here, we'll talk more about the winter solstice. That first day of winter was yesterday. You're watching Weather or Not. Welcome back to Weather or Not. First day of winter that started yesterday as we had our winter solstice yesterday. I think it happened a little bit after 9 o'clock in the morning. It has to do with the tilt of the Earth. So tilted farthest away from the Earth in the northern hemisphere. So, we are in our coldest months of the year. But now these days are starting to get longer. And that's what I do want to concentrate on with this segment here of Weather or Not. Yes, we are now in more or less, the dead of winter, I guess for some, as temperatures continue to fall, getting real close to that time frame of where we do have our coldest climate average high temperature, okay? But that will change. It doesn't change until we get into next month, but we know that will change. Our daylight for today, just shy of seeing 9 hours, but we are now starting to gain daylight. Through the rest of the month, it looks like we'll gain a little less than 4 minutes, okay? You won't be able to tell the difference. And then you see I added here through January 15th and through the last of January, where, for me, by the time we do get toward the tail end of January and February, that's when I really start to notice that, yes, we are starting to add daylight. But you do see from today through the 31st of this month, the 15th of January, and the 31st of January. That's what I did the comparisons to as to how much daylight do we gain from today through those 3 time frames. So by the time we do get into the last of January, we're gaining about an hour worth of daylight. And that's the time when these average high temperatures do start to go up. They're slowly starting to go up. So we will eventually, right now our climate average high is 28 degrees in Sioux Falls. That will eventually fall to 27 by the time we start January. That's when we hit 27 for climate average high. And then that goes up eventually. We have to wait until the 25th. So we have to wait toward the tail end of the month for that to start to go up to 28 degrees. So that's just a quick hit of what's going on with our winter solstice. But I always think it's interesting to bring in how much daylight we do gain from here on out. Oh, it's Christmas week, isn't it? We'll talk about that weather coming up. You're watching Weather or Not. Welcome back to Whether or Not Christmas Week. Well, here we are, Monday of Christmas week. Is your shopping done? Mine was done last Sunday, Monday. Took 2 days, done. So this past weekend, we did some cooking or baking, and we'll continue to do that leading up to Christmas Eve. And then let's enjoy let's just enjoy the week, not only the day, but let's enjoy the week. Well, let's go ahead and jump right into it as we are looking at possibility for record heat. Now, Christmas Day itself, I know last week I was all excited, getting BK all excited too. Well, maybe not his family, but I know that they would like a white Christmas. But we'll continue to melt that snow. Piles of snow are still around and probably will be around for Christmas Day. But leading up to that, temperatures in the 40s and 50s in eastern KELOLAND. Christmas Day heats. Here's a look at the top 5 warmest Christmas days. Okay, 50 is our warmest Christmas day in Sioux Falls. And then you see the numbers into the middle 40s. For Aberdeen, it's a little bit warmer, 56 for Christmas Day, 56 in Pierre, and 63 is a record high for Christmas Day in Rapid City. Now, I also compiled a list as we do go throughout this week. Now, other records I do want to show across the area, 50s and 60s. The Watertown stands out at 49 for a record high temperature on Christmas Day. Now, this is something that I looked at over the weekend. I didn't work this weekend, but I still looked at some information. And here's a list that I compiled as going back to last Tuesday, looking at 10 different forecast models and what they were doing for a high temperature of at least 50 degrees. 1 out of the 10, going back to Tuesday of last week, 2 out of 10 as we hit Wednesday. And there's a look at the average high going into the week, showing those numbers into the middle 40s. By the time we got into Friday, hey, we had 5 of the 10. Half of them were thinking we should have highs at least 50 degrees, and they came out to an average of 50. And then this weekend, I looked at things on Saturday morning, 9 out of 10. Oh, it's a shoo-in that we'll have a high temperature of 50 for Christmas Day. And it averaged out of those 10 models to bring in 52 degrees. Sunday took a step back, 6 out of 10. And of those 6 out of 10, it's suggesting that the average high temperature, 6 out of 10 saying at least 50. And of those 10 models, I went ahead and did the average, and it came out to 50, showing that is the average high temperature out of those 10 models. But took a step back on Sunday. It continues to take a step back today. So after going up saying, oh, yeah, it's a shoo-in, we'll get temperatures in the 50s Christmas Day. Now it's thinking, not so fast, Mr. Mundt. So today, I looked at that. I don't have it on the graphic, but I do have it written down in my handy-dandy notebook. Let's see here. It'll be this one, 25th. So here's a look at the models there, 10 of them. Look at what the average is now, 44. After preaching record high temperatures for Christmas Day, and all the models were suggesting numbers in the 50s. Boom, boom, they kept adding more. Hey, yeah, we're going to get into 50 degrees come Christmas Day. That lasted through the weekend. You wake up Monday, it's like, maybe not. Okay, let's pull back on that and say 44 is the average high out of those 10 models, and the warmest right now is 48. So that's a big step back, actually. Knowing that, I said, okay, let's look at some of the numbers, what they did over the weekend. They kept that 50 going through the weekend. And I said, you know what? Monday morning, I'll keep that 50 going in the forecast as well. We'll see what happens with data this afternoon and tomorrow morning. We'll see if they change it with the forecast package this afternoon, too, as they update that. But tomorrow morning, I'll continue to look at this list. I'll save those numbers. Hopefully, they'll be able to throw in more with temperatures or get these numbers back to 50 degrees. And then we're just looking at Sioux Falls. We'll see what happens. But regardless, I think we'll still be above average. Will we set a record? Right now, it doesn't look as likely as it was over this past weekend. But that's the way weather works. Sets you up for disappointment every now and then. But as we do look at this week, I wanted to bring in Aberdeen, Pierre, and Rapid City, what they've had for record high temperatures the 22nd through the 26th when you look at those numbers. And wouldn't you know it, too, I was looking at this over the weekend. That 50 on Christmas Day for a record high temperature, that is the lowest record high temperature that Sioux Falls has during the month of December. Happens to be on Christmas Day at 50. Look at the 2 days of the 24th. We're at 56. The day after, 26th. What's that, Boxing Day? 54. And sandwiched in between is Christmas with a record high temperature of 50, the coolest or coldest record high that we have for the month of December. So looking at the forecast numbers, I mentioned I kept that 50 for now for Christmas Day. That would tie the record. Before then, yes, today, 50. It's a nice day, but not a record. The record high is 59. We'll take a step back for Tuesday, and then we'll slowly try to warm back to the middle 40s, or I guess stay in the middle 40s there for Christmas Eve. But notice on Friday, we do fall to 40 for a high, and that trend continues right into this coming weekend. Temperatures will continue to slide. We are looking at numbers that end up probably below average as we get into the weekend for some of us across eastern KELOLAND. Well, this is where Aberdeen sits. You can see those record high temperatures, the coolest one out of these five being Christmas Eve at 50. Really not anticipating any records into northeastern South Dakota, but I wanted to bring these numbers in anyway. Our forecast this week showing the coolest day or coldest day at 28 for the 23rd. That's tomorrow. But then between that and the 26th, we do warm to the low to middle 40s, but that's still pretty far from our record highs. Let's bring in central South Dakota. This is Pierre. Look at today, 68. Well, you know what? We are forecasting numbers that may hit the 70s in south central South Dakota, but that's not Pierre. We'll see how warm we do get. We are forecasting 52 for today. 46 tomorrow as we cool a little. 50 on Christmas Eve. That's 4 degrees away from the record of 54. Look at Christmas Day, 55. The record that day is 56. And then we do start to cool Friday, and that trend continues right into this coming weekend. Rapid City. For today, the record high is 65. We are forecasting a high of 64 for today. Tomorrow, a little cooler, but Christmas Eve will be close, 3 degrees away from the record high of 67. Right now, we are forecasting to tie the record on Christmas Day at 63, and then those temperatures do cool as we get into Friday, and that trend will continue straight into this coming weekend. New Year's Eve. Well, you know, by the time we do hit New Year's Eve, I still think temperatures will be above average. How much above average, yet to be determined, much like Christmas Day, and that's only seems like a couple of days away. But the trend is there to show above average temperatures. Now, I wanted to do the same thing, the top 5 warmest days that we have on New Year's Eve, showing that temperatures are in the 50s in Sioux Falls, 40s for Aberdeen, middle 50s in Pierre, and you have to hit the low middle 60s in Rapid City. Again, we'll see how warm we do get as we get into New Year's Eve, but to bring in some other cities too for New Year's Eve, just for fun. Yeah, temperatures in the 50s and 60s. Mentioned the 40s in Aberdeen. 51 is the record high in Watertown, 62 in Yankton, 60 in Winter and in Chamberlain. And coming up next, we'll try to dive a little deeper into our weather pattern. Stay with us. You're watching Weather or Not. Time to talk about the weather pattern. Here we are in the last segment of Weather or Not. What can we expect over the next 2 weeks? And I picked 2 weeks because that's how far our graphic system goes when it looks at these computer models. So we'll go out 2 weeks, so that will take us into the new year and a little bit beyond. But again, Christmas week is looking dry and, of course, warm. We just talked all about that during the last segment. So here's a closer look at things. You see how the above-average temperatures not only here for us, but also extends to our south and southeast. The question is, how long does that last? Now, this weekend, we are looking at cooling temperatures or cooler temperatures with numbers returning at or even below average. And you see by Sunday afternoon, that trend continues, bringing in below average temperatures from the north. Let's go ahead and expand our view here. What do we start to see? Well, it looks like the upper air pattern drags in this colder air, more like, coming in from a northwest flow. So, that is something that we'll continue to follow with this cold air that will dive on in. And then does that change? Well, yeah, it doesn't last long. Look at this. Above average temperature. This is the reason why I talked about New Year's Eve. Above average temperatures do return by New Year's Eve. And then the question is, well, how long does that last? Well, look at this. Look at Western Canada. Okay, let me go ahead and just circle that. Now, keep in mind, too, I also have the precipitation on here. But this area that I'm circling, that's temperatures that are well below average. That's what BK would refer to as the purple blob, with temperatures being well below average. So what happens with that? That will eventually try to bleed into the northern plains. We are starting to see some hints of that as we begin the new month, new year, if you want to describe it that way. Below average temperatures are trying to return across the northern plains. There's also a system to our south. So as this cold air comes in, that may help bring or push those storm systems a little bit farther to our south. That is something to worry about. I would say once we get beyond the holidays, let's get past Christmas, let's get past New Year's Day, and then we'll see what happens, what these models are doing, how things are behaving with that. Because as we look at the European model going out the next 14 days, just looking at our snow chances, sure, it brings something in beyond the new year. Okay, this is January 3rd, where it's trying to paint something in across KELOLAND. Otherwise, before then, it looks quiet. And as we do take a look at the American model run, again, this is going out for 2 weeks. What does it do? Now, next to nothing. It looks like we just have dry conditions in the central and the northern plains as we go over the next 2 weeks. So that, again, will take us into the first couple of days of the new year. So we are looking at dry conditions. And isn't it something? We talk all about this snow we've had this month. Here's what we have so far, over 10 inches in Sioux Falls, about half of that in Aberdeen, Huron 6.5, close to 8 in Mitchell, and then the amounts do taper off in central and western South Dakota. And that's where, of course, a lot of the warm air has been anyway, with temperatures well above average in the 60s, 50s in western KELOLAND. Seems like we've been experiencing that for the past several days. But even with all this snow we've had this month, it's hard to get that white Christmas, isn't it? Who'd have thought? That's our time for this latest edition of Whether or Not. You enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for joining us.